Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Myst 5. Guess I do still need to hit the other button, otherwise the subscribe thing won't pop up. Yeah, so we're still in wherever we are. Dunny, Earth. Dunny is, as I recall, underneath Earth. Just 3 miles down. We need to pick up this book, and so the problem with this game is we've had very, very little puzzle solving. One major puzzle to get to this point, whereas we've had about 10 of these backstory books, and now finally we're getting backstory books that seem to tell actual new narrative compared to what you would have just known had you played the previous games. Let's just listen to this.
Power is a gift. Power is a curse. I learned of the fearsome power I wield on that day. The day of Callum's death. In a fit of rage, I destroyed the murderer, and I destroyed my innocence. And again, I learned that most things cannot be returned to how they were. And my power continued to grow even as I began to see that the prophecies of the grower might speak of me. My destiny began to be fulfilled. But there was still more. The least, abused, mistreated, misunderstood, ignored. They were mocked and scorned, and their hearts still show their pain. But they continue to serve. Such power they have, and yet they serve. They treated me with kindness, and I learned from them. They respected what I was becoming. With them, I learned new laws, new rules, and new powers. I used the powers to care for a tree to come, and the tablet allowed me to grow beyond Tiana, beyond father and mother, beyond Denis, beyond Callum. The tablet held them. The tablet chained them. The tablet held me. The tablet empowered me. I watched with them. I waited with them. I learned with them. I called them from captivity and grew while they gathered. Together we became both weak and strong. And then my time came. My time to take the tablet. My time to choose. I was ready. I felt the pull of holding it, of channeling and releasing the full power of the Barrow. I would right the wrongs. I would set things the way they should be. I would choose well. I could not fail. I am the grower. I was so sure, so strong, so wise. But I didn't open myself and listen to the Maker. The noise of me drowned his quiet voice. And I failed. Failed to see anything beyond myself and what was obvious. And pain came quickly when I realized what I had done. The tablet returned and the Barrow continued to serve. The pain still burns me. But the powerful Barrow simply wait and serve. Pain is often how we learn. But it is not for us to give. We are not the teachers. We must not abuse them. We must not abuse the Barrow.
Now, I'm a little confused here what the Barrow are, unless that is just the least, and it's probably not helpful to call them the least without also in the exact same sentence saying the Barrow. If you said the Barrow, comma, the least once or twice, okay, that makes sense, but you started off in some of these books just calling them the least. We have 2 more of these. Now the real danger here is that you're just going to end up turning this game into what would be a fancy looking 3D visual novel with such a high emphasis on dialogue and such a low emphasis on gameplay mechanics. So I just opened that door. and that turns on a vent, which potentially means we could go some other places, but it does fairly seem like this broken handle is to tell you you can't go this way. And we have just another one of these. Clearly there was some bad decisions or desperate decisions. I wouldn't be surprised if it's fairly desperate decisions to just finish a game as quickly as possible, but almost certainly there should have been some kind of puzzle in between finding that one book and finding this book. Theoretically, you could have had a game where it's just a whole bunch of collections of books, but I bet we see maybe one or two collections otherwise, and we're going to effectively be done with this collection after the next book after this one.
How could I have not seen the true path? I see it now so clearly. But can I get another chance to make things right? They came to Denis, those who felt called. I knew they would. I was prepared for them, and I pointed the way. I spoke often of the pride of Denis, of their belief in their own power and strength, and the reason that Denis once fell. And a few understand, and they begin to follow me. I am the grower. I would lead them to rebuild. Yet another burden. But what is the task of a grower? My father wrote Another Age, but I see that the tree is not a place, but a people. The heart of a people. That is what must grow. If only I had another chance to make things right. The tablet is the key. How could I have failed?
So, it seems like the line spacing on some of these books are getting a little wider. And I feel like in a modern game it'd be fairly wise to make it so every time you find a book, you get the next chronological part of the story, regardless if you find books out of order. Of course, that would make it harder to follow a walkthrough, but you could certainly figure out a way to perhaps have each item labeled or each location labeled on a map. Of course, a map would be very helpful in any Myst game. She's mostly talking about the people in Myst Online, Uru, coming back to Dunny and being the new citizens of Dunny. But weirdly, that's the entirety of this journey. You would think it would lead to something more, but we just have these doors that I'm assuming might be bathrooms, and then these alcoves that hold a fairly small number of people, but these are, I suppose, supposed to be just rest areas. So it definitely feels like the idea is that this game in some way wanted to connect to Uru, and Uru as an online game wanted to potentially continue on forever. We do have a different book here, so the end of the journey gives you a tiny reward, and then we have what looks like the last linking book to that central hub area, but it is pretty much unlikely that it's going to be worth ever returning to this section until we're at the very end of the game. We get these eyes, but yeah, there feels like there should have been some kind of lock or puzzle to unlock a book like this other than just getting to the end. And nope, there's nothing special about the book. It's just the final one of these.
I know what to do. I see it so clearly. One more chance to determine the destiny of the tablet. I can feel it. To be so close and yet so powerless, it drives me mad. The tablet sits there, holding the power of the Barrow captive, and I alone know what to do. I failed once, but what does that mean? Why am I punished when I could accomplish so much? The rules seem so arbitrary, some game of the Maker that only he understands. This legacy of failure. And now I see this final chance to right generations of wrong, to unleash the power that has been held for thousands of years. It is at my fingertips. I know what must be done, but I cannot speak of it for fear that it would somehow break the rules, tarnish the heart, taint the act, soil the innocence. I had a dream. I am carrying the seed of Denis, the seed of all things that are Denis, through a small cave. I come to a place where the path stops. And there are two holes, one above me and one below me. And through the hole below, I can see the Denis cavern in the great city. And through the hole above, I can see the sky and sun. A voice calls to me. In which hole will you plant the seed? And I know it is easy to drop the seed in the hole below. And I know it is impossible to throw the seed through the hole above. I call out to the voice asking for wisdom. And the voice answers me. Do not drop the seed in the hole below, for that is easy. But that is the way of the past. Do not throw the seed in the hole above, for that is difficult, and that is the task for another. In which hole will you plant the seed? And I know what to do. And I know I am the grower.
So we get a lot of backstory. Her love, Calum being murdered, her killing the murderer. It's a lot of telling instead of showing. Clearly there should have been a whole game, a narrative there. Again, I think it would be fairly interesting if you played a Myst game where it was a murder mystery and Callum got murdered at the beginning of this game, and then you had to investigate who did it. It would give you a reason to have rooms that would have potential clues and objects to investigate, instead of these empty rooms that have maybe this and that and maybe a book. But yeah, that's... I guess technically that was an entire book with pages and sections ripped out, which maybe speaks to her being crazy. But I imagine this will speak more to her being crazy.
What am I left with? Why did he leave this weight on me? Did I ask for this? Did I ask to lose my brothers? Did I ask to cause the death of Callum? Did I ask to watch my mother die? Did I ask to be my father's tool? Did I ask for so much power? Did I ask to be so alone? Father, I wish you could hold me.
It would be funny if it turned out the father was still alive and she's lying to you about him being dead. She's just trapped him somewhere, very much like the outcome of the first game, or the beginning of the first game. Yeah, I think there's absolutely nothing more to find in that section. So we need to move forward. We should have moved forward, perhaps an hour ago. All of these gates are now open, so if we teleport not through the books but through these tablets, we can do that. I guess the one thing to figure out here, it probably doesn't matter, is you've got the Dunning numbering system, or I'm not even sure it's the Dunning numbering system as much as it was the numbering system from Riven, or if that's a different system. Certainly Myst 3, Myst 4, and Myst 5 aren't bothering to really create new writing systems, new numbering systems. those kinds of very cryptic systems are unlikely to be worth the effort. So, I suspect, just by the simplicity, that this would be our first one to go to. I don't think it really matters which one you go to. I suspect that the least characters, the fly characters, are simple-minded constructors of sorts. They slave race of some sorts. So I bet holding the tablet just is seen as being the authority in charge, and they just react accordingly to that, to any commands or instructions. And since this is a world where descriptive books can create places, ages with life in it, it's not unbelievable that you could create a world where there is a slave creature that would just construct more worlds for you. Although that's almost a catch-22 Ouroboros problem, where if you write a descriptive book, then to create a slave race, why did you need the slave race in the first place if you could just create everything whole cloth by writing descriptive books? What I really wanted with the Myst series, and they never really gave it to us, there's a few things that we never really get. We never get a story that is just clear enough to be explained outright. Like, instead of having an intro with Atros talking to us, by the third game we should have had an intro explaining the idea of descriptive books and linking books and ages and just the magic, the art that creates ages first and foremost. But yeah, they never really explain the rules. Weirdly, there is a Minecraft mod to try to make descriptive books and linking books and do what Myst should have done, but even that mod is fairly nebulous and not super popular. But yeah, had you been able to create a system where through a few words the game could create entirely new worlds with puzzles and new challenges, and everything felt fresh and new every time, that would have been amazing. But even now, with large language models like ChatGPT or artificial intelligence image generation, we're only at the very beginnings of that idea, where potentially you could write a few words and then that would make some kind of almost random seed to randomly generate a new world. Minecraft kind of does that, but Minecraft is also very limited as far as puzzles and things like that. You'd have to make bespoke structures or think of a whole new random generation concept for that to work. And that's exactly how Minecraft works, is that the land generation is randomized by a random seed, but the actual buildings are handcrafted and then slightly modified through randomization. And there's notably no puzzles by default in a Minecraft world. So I assume what we do is we just touch this tablet, and there's nothing more to it than that. That being said, if that isn't a solution, then we saw throughout several of these, and we would just have to kind of flip through them, writing on the tablet for different outline shapes of tablets. Okay, so we have a tablet, we pick it up, and we touch it. Touch this? Nope. If I walk out of here with the tablet, can I put the tablet on the ground? No. Could I potentially grab the tablet? No, I had to hit the little button on the left. So, the central hub area is this location, and this is this location. So let's leave the tablet there and see what this guy says. Get back to Eshu, which I assume he is not actually an original Dunny citizen. I would assume he's a human from the surface that became a Dunny citizen, but we really don't know the timeline, which is another thing they really should have explained as far as, has it been a few decades or just a few years, maybe even a few months since the events of Myst Online and people returning to Dunny, or has it been 100 or 1,000 years? We really just don't know. Is he going to say anything?
I don't know why the creatures chose this place for the slates. Dagira. Cold, barren, desolate, it has been described. However, also purposeful. No doubt Yisha sees only evil here. This was a prison age. For those who committed monstrous crimes, they were sent to this place to live out their lives. Justice, not evil. Much to learn.
Wow. It shows that they can only load in a
First
conversation for about a minute before they have to pause and
pick
load
it up
again.
from the pedestal and take it with you. But know this about the slates. They too are abominations made by the Bahro creatures, abuse of the art of writing. Still, they carry great power. You will find that you can write on the slates anything you wish. There are some elementary symbols the creatures understand. At least in this way you can use the Bahro hindrance for your good. They will take it if you drop it. They will obey it if you order them. They will return it in time. As you learn, you will have more control. Use the slate to free yourself. Huh? The burden you carry is heavy, but for that, you will be thankful.
So it's possible that some of that conversation, when the paused and loaded in, was conversation you would have heard had you gone to a different location, whereas the first part of it obviously is just around describing this age as a prison age, which there is definitely an over focus amongst the Dunny people of creating prisons and traps. It's a good way, I guess, to make an escape the room puzzle, but it doesn't speak well to the kind of culture and society they had. Although, in all fairness, if you did have a culture where it seems like everybody could just create ages, that would give a lot of godlike mentality to a lot of characters and a lot of people, and then they would almost certainly abuse that godlike mentality. This is effectively the concept of power corrupting and absolute power corrupting absolutely. So I guess the idea is you can't go any further until you get into this slate gameplay mechanic, which we can see there's a symbol here, although with the classic controls, it's kind of hard to get a great view of it. Like, you would think you could click here and zoom in and it would rotate everything perfectly. But nope. And I guess there could have been a case where I left the tablet in the central location. Interesting, when I stepped there it made a sound effect, but we don't get sound effects anywhere else. So this is almost certainly why there are no puzzles in this game. I feel like this is what created the development hell that I suspect this game was in. And it is just way too ambitious of a symbol recognition software from 2005, which honestly, even now, trying to draw symbols and having computers recognize it 100% of the time is not super accurate. This would have been something inspired by some of the early Palm Pilot writing systems back before we had cell phones. There were personal digital assistants, and the Palm Pilots had squares that you would draw little shapes in, and they would recognize those shapes as letters, and you would type that way instead of typing on a keyboard or having a touchscreen with a pop-up keyboard. You basically had to learn a whole new system, and that's why Palm Pilots were never super popular. So they want me to draw a house with some lines on the outside and some lines on the inside. And this is definitely some of the content that made this game fairly frustrating. So that should have been a straight line. I assume this is resetting. I suspect this is going to be symbols that we see once we lock them in once. We will not have to draw it a second time. But at a certain level, that is the... Yeah, I didn't draw it correctly. And I just put it down, and because I put it down, the least magically just picked it up, and I don't think they're going to understand what to do. But yeah, you have to get away from them. So I didn't draw it correctly. I needed the little hump at the bottom. Unless there's... Well, there's a hump here. Wait a minute. So this is the outline of the slate. So I probably just need to do the lines on the inside. Well, that would make a lot more sense to have just that and that be the symbol to draw. And we'll move it closer. And then we'll step away. Now you don't have to step into the bubble. maybe the idea here is that this is just where you're supposed to put the tablet, and maybe not even supposed to write anything. We'll try that. Interesting. That did make a crack. So instead of writing something, which is the actual gameplay mechanic, the game has instead just introduced the idea of potentially threatening the life of the Barons. In there, he's just placed the tablet back. So clearly they want the tablets here. Like, they have a place they want to return it to, which maybe that means something more to them. Maybe it doesn't. You would think, however, the standing on top of it wouldn't be the solution. That's never really been the way you've gotten through a puzzle before in the Myst games, and while that inherently doesn't have to be a bad thing, it is a little weird to have such a physical action in a game series that has been almost 100% mental. There have been a few places where there's physical actions, and usually I am fairly unhappy with those physical puzzles. So it seems to me you can't climb, so they're introducing a concept here of puzzles potentially being set up in such a way so that you can solve them without having to really move around with the point and click interface. So if we hit this, what does that set us? It resets us here. So what I'm going to do, I guess, is draw that symbol, the down and the swirl, and then put it downward. I get the idea here, certainly, that this is how you introduce the idea of learning a language. Interesting, it seems like it isn't going to be picked up if I'm standing this close. You still have the writing. So I'm just hoping that's correct. The camera is putting us facing the wrong direction very often. Yeah, and if you're a true bibliophile style of Myst fans, it does make a lot of sense that you would want to learn yet another language and be involved in that concept, but learning to write what is always just going to be a really simplistic language. I mean, even the game tells you it's going to be elementary symbols, and there's unlikely to be a lot of them. It's not going to be super satisfactory without more puzzles. Okay. Well, the game is telling me to draw this symbol. And there's just absolutely no benefit, it seems, to investigating things first. So we'll do our best. It's kind of surprising that even at 2005 this potentially works. There's one symbol. Best case scenario, there will be 4 symbols throughout the entirety of each of the 4 levels, which would be 16 symbols, which is a far way away from interesting. So he's just called upon some kind of geysers and drastically changed the way the world is. And if I need the tablet, I'm probably going to have to go back and recall it. So maybe there was a little bit of a value in investigating the world before I somewhat drastically changed it. These Myst Islands are still very much just oceans of nothing with a few islands around, which in a rebooted, remade version of Myst, you definitely want to try and not have that always be the case. It makes a lot of sense in some cases, but it gets repetitive. Sounds like there's some kind of machinery, and it looks to me like I've actually blocked off my path. Interesting. It only lasted a little bit, and it seems like when that was happening, there was less snow on the bridge. It almost feels like I jumped into a different timeline, but if that was the case, I would expect it to at least be nighttime, something visually different. In a lot of ways, this feels like that age in the first game where it's music based, and that certainly could be a nightmare if we run into an age like that. I was never good with music and sound effects. I'm almost certainly 100% tone deaf. Okay. So we'll, I guess, teleport back and draw this picture now. But you can also see how the writing here is, the loading, not the writing, is a little dissatisfactory. I should have taken a picture because I am not sure I'm drawing the right thing. Let's just go ahead and guarantee victory by drawing this. It is saving your drawing. Obviously, it's not cleaning it up, which would have been nicer, I think, if it did clean it up. And clearly, the intention is to have the camera twist and show you the direction that the creatures are in, but it's not really doing a great job with that. The problem, though, you run into with this is it's literally just one gameplay mechanic for the rest of this game. That, as far as I recall, like, so if you struggle with the drawing, which I definitely had a kind of weird thumb trackball mouse when I was playing this game the first time, and that probably made it a little bit more difficult, but I probably just had a lower quality mouse in general. So if you bring that up, even there, you could kind of do that. Need a line in the center and a line in the middle. There. So we're telling him to put it on this pedestal that's right in front of him. And we'll probably end up doing that multiple times. And yeah, because the camera's not twisting and showing you like the actions of the barroom, you're very often going to run into issues of missing all the action. So this symbol seems to be an action signal, or just the last thing you drew that isn't a teleportation signal. Of course, how is this going to integrate to the rest of the world here? Another cutscene.
Do you not marvel at what the prisoners were able to do here with so little? Structures, food, life. As Duchny built, so they did here. Nothing. None of it matters now. The future is all we have. Justice is at hand. We will build again.
Escher's nose comes off very dark and in shadow. It feels like half the time it's not actually rendering correctly. So even the prisoners will able to build some life on their prison. You would think that Duny might be a world that was always at war with some other species, some other group, but weirdly it doesn't seem like that's ever the case. Alright, let's go and take a screenshot of this. I imagine this isn't magical paper, so the idea is to just open and close some vents, much like the swamp age of the first game. And I suspect this is the opening and closing of vents. Although, it does seem like it's tied. Or, maybe the counter gameplay mechanic to this is that we have to place tablets down to free our hands. I guess it is a catch-22 if you are putting something down on the ground, then the barroom would pick it up, so you would have to hold the tablet with one hand, assuming you have two hands, and then flip the switch with the other hand. It seems to me like there's literally just one room, and then there's a bunch of what I would call geothermal collectors.
I was not so sure of you, and yet you have done well. But do not be proud. You think you understand what you see? You may be wrong. For example, this appears to be ice, but there is more. Like the prisoners, there is life here that seeks heat, unseen life, in the water. There is no longer heat in this place, but you can make them bring it.
So I don't know if that is a hint just because we're wandering around, or is that a hint that you always would get when you walk in that spot? So there's 3 geothermal things that way. I really wasn't expecting. This one seems broken, but it isn't. I was grabbing the rope, but apparently grabbing the center works too. Yeah, it'd be a little weird if you're just always at the danger of another cutscene, based on wandering to a location. Okay. And the free roam nature of all of this is a little disconnecting. Like I wouldn't have really expected I could have come over to this point, and I don't really see a reason to come to this point other than maybe this will all be water at some point. Okay, so there's 2 there. See it. 1, 2, 3 here, and then 1, 2, 3 here. But so we know 3 of them should probably be different, and it'd be nice in a regular game you would just pick this up and take it with you as an item. Alright. The 1, 2, 3 over there don't really match the map. And 1, 2, 3 really are just 2. So those 3. Alright. We'll close the vents on these 2, assuming that left means closed. Which I guess you could just say we're having everything on the 3 leftmost be on the left, and the 3 rightmost on the right. And then there seems like there's going to be more, since there's some more room for teleporting, but maybe not. But this may just be a smaller area. We'll take this. We will place it down with the sun symbol, which it totally just remembers how you draw it, which that's a lot of data, frankly, to remember exactly how somebody drew something instead of just cleaning it up into a nice smooth animation and a smooth motion. Right, let's go this way. Okay. So I don't want to interfere with them. But I may have to go all the way back to the puzzle. Right. So those three you can see steam are coming out of. And then these three steam are not coming out of. So assuming that this is actually correct as a map, and that I'm not just misinterpreting things completely, maybe I just need to swap everything. Although, if I have enough time, just turning everything on might be the right move. It does kind of feel like the world is melting a little bit more. Although it does just kind of also feel like an instant freeze. Let's see. What I really would like to be able to do though is click on the tablet, a pedestal here, and summon the tablet to you, not the other way around, where I have to travel back to this whole location. If I take this, I guess now from this pedestal I can fast travel back. But the load is a little slow. It's not amazingly fast. A remade version of this game would definitely have it be almost 100% instantaneous. Alright. Let's see if we can pick up the tablet to save ourselves some frustration there. It seems to me like we probably have to follow the... You can see this geothermal. They all end up here. So you see some levers here. I'm just having a hard time clicking to them. Game. Okay. So everything's in the middle. Left, left, left. Okay. So there's a whole puzzle here that makes a lot more sense. And we can't walk on the ice until we get the full puzzle going. So turning all the valves on was really just the beginning of everything. Let's check this book. Picture's too small. I can't see it from 8 feet away. So you would kind of hope that you would have a fast travel towards that central area, but really no such luck. you definitely would expect that you would see some more books. So I basically am seeing circles here, and maybe that's a counterclockwise, counterclockwise, counterclockwise. Or maybe the gap here is supposed to indicate something. But honestly, I think it probably is more just in case you want to go left, then right, then left on that side, and then right, then left, then left on that side. Which, why do that instead of just use this? So I'm gonna go left, and then right, then left, and then I'm gonna do right, and then left, and then left. Yeah, see if that makes sense. Right, left, 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 right, left. Yeah. And we'll just use the tablet as our own notepad. But that is potentially going to not work very well because we also need to activate the Steam. Yeah, I can't twist any of these. So maybe I could see what I need to change and focus down, since it seems to me like I only need to change this one on this side, so that makes it easier to memorize. Sounds like fireworks are going off in the background, and I assume that's supposed to be the sound of crackling ice. Okay. Left, right, left, and then change the one on the other side. It's not super difficult. So I'm just going to drop it here, and then walk over here. Having a hard time swinging this. Doesn't really want to cooperate well. Plus I want to go get the tablet back before they take it. They already took the tablet. So this has made a platform which I would hope would not trap us of what looks like coral creatures.
These are their tombs. And as they died here, so did all of Duchni. Guilty here, but my Duchni is innocent. May we rebuild structures, not leave tombs. Make them bring you to the keep, for it will run from you.
So I have no idea what the keep is, but I can say it would make a lot of sense for the game to have removed the Steam aspect before that cutscene started. I guess inherently, a circle with 3 lines, we can't click on it, but we can go here. We can pick up the tablet. We can draw with it. Circle, diagonal down, straight down. And if we place that there, I suspect we have to walk away. So we definitely know they're teleporting, but part I don't know if we know if they can teleport from age to age or only within a single age. There's clearly another room for another button, but it's a kind of complicated process there to have to find a checkpoint spot and teleport yourself to it. And so you have this island that, in comparison to an age in the first Myst game, is incredibly simplistic. There's literally one puzzle with no supportive set puzzles or elements that would explain the general concept or the general goal. It's going from a very start point to an end point concept instead of most Myst ages being very circular and you're just way more capable of wandering around and being in awe of the age. There's very little to be in awe here. You're seeing a bunch of ice in the horizon, you see a bunch of water and a bunch of sky. The plants in the trees are kind of interesting. The steam collectors are kind of interesting, but they don't lead to much. In any of the other Myst games, there would have been a bridge that would have been controlled by steam, and you would have had to switch the valves one way to open the bridge, then you would have had to switch the valves a different way to open a different gate, and there would have been a lot more interaction instead of just seeing the solution on the wall and then typing it in. And while I do appreciate the idea of checkpointing and being able to fast travel yourself throughout different points in age, that doesn't really work when there's just so little to do. And most of the ages in Myst 1, in the first Myst game, were small enough that you wouldn't really have needed to have multiple locations. So this thing just straight up moves away from you, which I see a symbol here that just looks like 2 ovals. And it'd be nice if we had like a way to zoom in on this. So what I'll do is we'll try this action and see if this does anything. And then we'll grab it. Grab it back and see if that steam does anything for us. Nope. It does not. If anything, it just makes it more difficult to see that symbol. Now what if I put the wrong symbol down? I would like it to return it to the last pedestal it was on. I don't know if it really... I don't think it really does that, though, and that's kind of annoying. So, I don't think that worked. And there's just not any other symbols or anything to read or puzzle with. The first Myst games were also not very shy of having red herring objects where you might find a chessboard, and there's nothing to really do with the chessboard, but you can play with it and look at it if you're interested. Maybe it has to be more of a connected figure 8. That might be it. That would be a very different way of displaying things. Okay. At the beginning of this, we just placed it down, and by placing it down, it created a crack. We could run all the way back to the place where we saw the tablet before, which I guess this is the keep this is with the 4 pedestals. And maybe we would see a symbol there, but I don't think we did see a symbol there. Alright, well, this is where being 8 feet away from a TV hurts me, so to adjust for that, I am going to pull out my cell phone and my camera and use the zoom on my camera as a makeshift magnifier to see what I'm not seeing. Okay, I see it now. It is more of a ladder shape with a little box underneath it. But at 1080p, and that's probably why they don't recommend 1080p, is that the resolution gets so small you can't see small details if you're far enough away. But yeah, that's a problem. And that definitely is a trick if you want a larger resolution, is that you can just lower the resolution to make things look bigger, although typically it's not the right solution. It's better to try to adjust the dots per inch on Windows, but that doesn't work very well either. So obviously that was a very different symbol from what I was drawing before and what I was seeing before. And still, it did not work. Let me double check what I'm seeing here. I'm having to zoom and stabilize at like 30 times zoom. My hand's shaking too much to actually see it clearly. Maybe I could zoom out a little bit. That is what I'm seeing, though. I must have just not drawn it well enough. I'm seeing a little box here. I'm seeing a big box here. I'm seeing lines. And I'm seeing a box here. Just smack down in your face. Let's start at the top. That will kind of determine the other boxes. And so we don't actually have to get away from them. That sounds like that was him really understanding if you listen to the screeching. Okay. So that put that tablet there in the keep. And very possibly that's all I'm supposed to do. Because from that point, I guess I can just teleport back here, and then I can just teleport back here. So the game definitely, with the ladder, forced me to learn this teleportation system, which, if I hadn't done this level and had done one of the other levels, then I wouldn't have learned that. So, or maybe the game will teach it to you a second time.
You have found the keep, the destination for the slates. You've seen this pedestal already in Greer, where you started, and you'll see it again. It is in many places at once. Touch the slate to finish your task. Only you can make them solid. 3 remain. Return to the tunnels, the path that leads to Duchny, and you will find another book. Well done.
The idea of a keep being in multiple places at once is kind of canon breaking again with what we've seen so far. I don't know if I really am going to find another book, though, in the tunnels, or if I've already found all the books, and I just really would be better off going to the central hub area. So we started the game and people couldn't touch the central tablet. Seemingly people can't touch these other tablets that are going to act like keys to unlocking the central tablet. And walking out here would just return you to that spot. We still can't click on the tablet. And it seems like it's been programmed in such a way that you both are seeing the starting location and the snowy location, which maybe means when I walk out of here, I will be back at the starting location. Nope. So I guess you're just supposed to hit that button. Which is weird, because then that's just going to take me here. You'd think that there would have been another cutscene with Yisha, and that there would have been some more conversation to be had there. Instead, you would have to walk all the way through this. We'll just look around to see if we find any book. Like, it kind of might make some sense if there was a book that just appeared on that pedestal or in these devices, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. Had you not solved any of the other puzzles in this area, had you just put that off until later, well, I guess this actually doesn't get you back to that location. So there actually is no way back to where Yisha is, probably until the very end of the game. And so then they would have just had you wander and solve more of this world's puzzles to find the next book. But we've already done all of that, so we've done all the prep work, and effectively we are probably 2/5 of the way done with this game. Like, there will be 3 more worlds, and potentially I'll solve 1 or 2 of them in the next recording. Yeah. But that's just going to be it. We're going to learn maybe 12 more symbols to solve 3 more worlds, and then we're going to free the tablet, and then whatever story narrative happens from that will be that. So let's make sure we make a save, and then let's just wrap up here. That's where we'll be going next time, but I don't want to load into it for fear of another cutscene with Escher, or Eshu, whatever his name is. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description box. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.